right now. Okay, I don't have to do the intro or nothing because I'm not using vMix software today. And again, like I said, Ed started this meeting. So I just joined as a guest and I'm co-hosting. Tom, your microphone is muted if you didn't know.
Yeah, I know, Ron. My wife's online in the other room, so she probably pick up some noise.
Oh, okay, good enough. Just so you. All right. Hey, I had the opportunity last Tuesday to do a demo for Ed Siegel's club, Woodworkers of Central New York. I had a lot of fun doing it. It was a remote demo. If nothing else, the camera work, I think, was pretty darn good. There is a YouTube link of that video or that demo that has been uploaded to YouTube. Ed's Club has already got the link to it. If anyone else is interested, I'd be more than happy to send it out to the forum membership. The only bad part of it is at the very end when I was trying to do, I didn't have everything with me that I needed for the demo. You never remember to bring everything because I went to our club venue to do the demo. That's where all the camera equipment is set up. So needless to say, when I was trying to color the band, it flew off and broke. But nevertheless, the demo did show how a mini hat is made. And if you look up and see the video, you can, you'll see how a mini hat is made. Now, I told Ed's Club that when I was done, I would, obviously I couldn't finish that one and, send it off to their club for their fundraisers. So what I did was I told them I would make another one. And as soon as it was completely finished, I would send it off. Well, I did it this morning. This is the mini hat I made for Ed Siegel's club in New York. And this is the same as the one I did for the demo. So if you go to the demo, you're going to see how it's done. And this is what it's going to look like when it's finished. Now, this was just finished this morning. I have not put it in the bender yet. It's still wet. I can feel the moisture in it. This is made out of oak. And when this forum is done today, I'll put it in the bender this evening. And within 3 or 4 days, it'll be done. I'll put a finish on it. And then I'll send it off to Ed's Club. I guess they do some kind of a fundraising auction at a fair. And this would be one of the items they can auction off. But anyways, it was fun doing that. And
we appreciate it. It was a great demo.
I tell you the truth, that I've gotten a lot of feedback from your members.
Happy, good.
Yeah, many. I mean, probably in somewhere in the vicinity of 15, 20 emails regarding, the demo. Most of them, a lot of them were asking for I did offer them too. It was supplied to me by Chris Ramsey in Kentucky. All the directions on how to make a mini hat, how to make the jam chucks, how to make the benders, and so forth. And I did forward all of those to Barbara at your club, Ed. So,
yep.
If anybody, I'll tell you what I'll do. I will send a link to that YouTube video to all the members of Woodturning Forums. And if you do look at it, and if it's something you would like to try, contact me through this email for this forum, and I'll forward the stuff to you too. Again, Chris Ramsey wrote those directions, and I asked him prior to even doing the demo for Ed's Club if it was okay for me to share that with everybody else, and he overwhelmingly, open armed, yeah, go ahead, it's yours, do what you want, feel free. But I did tell him, I says I would certainly let everybody know who wrote them.
Is that one solid piece of wood or laminated?
That's all one piece. Everything is one piece. That band is burnished on there. I use Paduke and ebony. So the dark rings, I don't know, can you see it pretty close or can you see it real well, the band? Okay, well,
Yeah, we can see.
all right, those dark rings are done with ebony and then the Paduke in the middle. And then after I get the Paduke on, I use the ebony again and put a dark band right at the edge of the Paduke to make the Paduke stand out better. And that's done by burnishing. I turn the lathe up to about 600 RPM and literally take another piece of wood another piece of wood, ebony and the Paduke. They're sanded down with a belt sander to a chisel edge, about 1 inch wide, 3/4 inch wide. It doesn't really matter. It looks like a chisel or like a skew chisel. And I literally just push it into the wood as it's spinning at 600 RPM. And it doesn't take much. The ebony transfers almost like instantly. The Paduke, you got to push a little bit harder. Now, the reason I lost the piece at the demo, I normally use a rubber chucky or something on my tailstock and hold it on the jam chuck when I burnish that. Well, I didn't have that for the demo. And so I pushed to try to burnish it and I pushed just a little bit too hard. Wasn't holding well enough. There was nothing to keep it on and it flew off. But I did it in an hour and 15 minutes, I believe. So everybody got the gist of it. And I don't think I put too many people to sleep.
No, feedback was good.
So
It was a great demonstration, Ron, and I couldn't get over the video quality. It was excellent.
yeah, you know what? Two things that I do. Now, what I'm recording now is on Zoom. And Zoom recordings, pardon my French, there's no ladies that I can see. Zoom recordings suck. Now, I use vMix software. And even though I go to Zoom through vMix, when I recorded that, I did not record that demo on Zoom. I recorded it on vMix. And it is 1080p quality. vMix recordings are just crystal clear. And Dave Qualls did the camera work on that. And I was surprised after I watched it when I was editing it. I was surprised at some of the things he caught that, had I been thinking, I would have said, hey, Dave, turn this camera on. But I was trying not to do that. I mean, this was a demonstration that, I didn't want to be doing all the instructing, to my cameraman along with telling everybody what I was doing. So I was just crossing my fingers and hoping for the best. And I'll tell you what, in my honest opinion, some of the people from North Coast saw that, Tom. And I got Columbus Club now calling me, asking me, can we come to your club location and see what you're doing and how you're doing it? And actually, I just made it a little bit easier for everybody concerned. I just bought a Elgato Stream Deck yesterday. And from what I understand, I've seen them in operation. I haven't used one yet. I just took it out of the box and looked at it. But from what I understand, I can put all my ATEM Mini Pro in there. I could put vMix in there. I could put Zoom, everything. And it's just a matter of it just hitting buttons now. And you can actually label the buttons. So, I mean, now you don't have to try to remember what button is doing what. It'll say right on the button what camera it is, and hit the button, boom, and it's instant. It's automatic. So that's going to make it even easier.
Ron, that was going to be my next comment. Was Dave did an excellent job switching cameras and so on. I was really, really impressed. He needs a big pat on the back. He did a great job.
Yeah, I think so too. And everybody that is attending, and it's not that many today, believe it or not. We only have 8 today. All right, well, then it's going to be, I guess, decided between the 8 people that are here. We are thinking of, we already changed to, our days to opposite weeks that we originally started because of somebody doing this in Ireland. My next thing is, what does everybody think about having these at 7 o'clock on Sunday evening instead of 2 o'clock in the afternoon?
That'll work for me, Ron. I'm pretty flexible.
Yeah, it works for me. I think it might be easier because that's not smack in the middle of the day.
I have no problem with the evening.
I
don't think I'd have a problem unless the wife decides to chase me around the house.
Don't let her catch you.
No, that's good. That's good. 7 o'clock would be all right.
All right, great. I think, like I was talking over with Ed before this started, well, this is football season, even though there's not a lot of football, but there are football fans that are not going to miss a game for love or money. I'm a NASCAR fan, so during the summer, I would miss a race for a meeting, but I'd rather see the race. So, but I think at 7 o'clock, if you do have Sunday dinner, usually that's at 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, if you're invited somewhere, I just think 7 o'clock, everything's kind of already settled down. Your weekend is over for those that are still working, and 7 o'clock is still early enough that we could have a meeting for an hour, hour and a half, even 2 hours, and it's not too awfully late to go to bed and get up for work the next day.
So Tom, did you ever try and make one of those hats?
No, Ron, I never did. I just never tried it, but maybe someday I will. As I gain skill and confidence and everything. I've been turning for 4 years, and so I'm still learning a lot.
We're all still learning a lot.
Yeah, you got that right. You never stop learning. I tell you, the only reason I started making hats, I don't know, did I tell the group the story about that? Or I know I did for the demo, but I was invited to the Pittsburgh Club, Unanimous Woodturners in Pittsburgh, PA, by David Dudney. He was an AAW officer at the time and a member of that club. And he invited me, and my wife and I got up. We're about an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes from Pittsburgh. So we went, and the then president of the Central Ohio Woodturners in Columbus, where I am also a member now, Mike Trucco, was doing the demonstration, and he was doing a full-size hat. And I got to be honest, at that point, I had never even seen a wooden hat. Didn't know it was, never even came to mind. And I saw that demo, and I mean, it just impressed the hell out of me. So on the way home, I told my wife, I said, I am going to learn how to do a hat. I don't know how, but I'm going to learn. And I got a hold of, I was told that Johannes Michelson was the original designer and creator of the wooden hat. Well, that's not entirely true, and Johannes is a good friend of mine. I had him here at my house for 10 days. He demonstrated at 3 clubs I belonged to, did hands-on classes in my shop every single day for those 10 days. And so I learned a lot there. But anyways, I got his DVD, and I watched it so many times, my wife literally was going to make me move out with my VCR or DVD player. But I eventually gave it a go. I think the first 12 hats I tried were all failures. And then I finally got a hold of Mike Trucco in Columbus, and he graciously invited me to his shop, me and a friend, on 3 different occasions. I took all the wood, all the blanks. And we do a hat in the morning, have lunch, and do a hat in the afternoon. And then, of course, I leave him a couple blanks for himself. And Naeem, you're a member of Central Ohio. You know Mike. So anyways, that's what I did until I finally learned how to make them. And then I was making them. I was actually selling them at that point. When I decided last year in March to go to Chris Ramsey's place in Kentucky, Somerset, Kentucky. Now, Chris Ramsey, in my opinion, and I would never say this to Johannes because I like Johannes very well, but in my opinion, Chris Ramsey is probably the best hat maker I have ever seen. And I've seen a lot of them now. Jerry Messimer, Mike Trucco, Johannes Michelson, myself, Ken Brown passed away now, but on and on and on. And I think Chris Ramsey's the best. Chris Ramsey made one for President Bush, Dale Earnhardt Jr., Charlie Daniels, a couple of U.S. congressmen, and the governors of North Carolina and Kentucky. And
Are
after
these hats just to put on a counter as a display, or do they wear them?
they wear them.
They wear them.
Yes, you can actually measure a person's head and fit it to that person. Now, I'm going to tell you the truth. They're not the most comfortable things in the world to wear because they don't give. You
I
know,
was gonna
and
say, if
I'm
the guy
sorry.
made one for Charlie Daniels with the big old hat he used to wear,
yeah,
that's a lot of wood.
you know what? Like I say, I have to honestly say that I think Chris Ramsey's the best. Now, the actual first known person to ever make a wooden hat that's ever been recorded, it's in a book called The Lunar Men. It's 5 men in the 1700s that literally changed the world. His name was William Murdoch. He went to Matthew Bolton's house to apply for a job, and he was twirling a wooden hat on his finger during the interview. And Matthew Bolton said, that's an unusual material that's hat's made out of. He said, what is that? And William Murdoch said, it is timmer, not tinder, timmer, Timmer. And he said, you mean that hat is made of wood? And he said, yes, sir, on a bit lathe of my own contriving. Those are the exact words in the book. When I heard this, actually, I made a post on Facebook. And I had said, I've been very fortunate in meeting some of the best hat makers in the country and learning from them. And I listed on Facebook Mike Trucco, Chris Ramsey, and Johannes Michelson. And in that Facebook post, I made the statement, the original hat maker, original creator of the wooden hat, Johannes Michelson. And boy, did I start getting all kinds of feedback. He was not the first to, it's like, whoa, wait a minute. I didn't mean to start a war here. I'm sorry. Then I was being told that somebody in 1700 or 17 something made one. And then I heard about this book. And so I went out and I bought the book. It's 500 and some pages long. And I got to tell you, it was a very good book, but it was very hard reading, very difficult. A lot of it was the way they used to talk back then, like Murdoch, when he said a bit lathe of my own contriving. You know, you're reading a book like that, you got to stop and think for a minute. You know, what's he saying here? But it was a good book. And I noticed is going to say the book is called The Lunar Men. And the reason it was called The Lunar Men, back then they didn't have street lights. They didn't have paved roads. Going down the street was like riding over railroad tracks. So what they used to do, these men used to get together once a month, and they would have a big powwow and dinner. And then, of course, back in the 1700s and those days, the men would go off to the parlor with their glass of wine and their cigars, and they would talk shop, where the women all went into the kitchen and who knows what they talked about. Now, that isn't that way anymore per se, but it was back then. Anyways, what they used to do is they used to meet when the moon was full, because it gave them the light they needed to see to try to travel those roads that they had to drive over, or I'm sorry, buggy over with the horse-drawn carriages. Because if you didn't do it when you could see, you probably weren't going to get home. You know, as dark as it would be and so forth, you know, they'd get stuck in a road somewhere and they couldn't see anything to get themselves out. But it was an excellent book. Anyways, I bought that book and I started reading it only because it was brought to my attention that this guy, William Murdoch, was the first one to do a wooden hat. And when I bought it, I'm reading and reading and reading, like, where the heck is the part coming where I'm going to hear about this guy doing this hat? Well, ironically, it was all on one page of 530 pages of book. It was on page 290, and it was only on that one page. So, but it was a good book. I mean, I'm glad I read it. I'm not sorry I wrote it. And it was back when Tesla and Edison and all of those big shots that, you know, literally, and it's very true. The things these guys did back when they did it, they literally did change the world, how we know it today. But I will give Johannes Michelson credit in one area. I do not believe, as far as I know, at least I don't know of anybody who was turning wooden hats on a regular basis. Johannes Michelson in 1980 had thought about it and tried to come up with some ways of doing it and bending them and making them oval to fit your head and so forth. And the jigs that were necessary and the benders that were necessary. I'll give Johannes credit for all of that. Chris Ramsey admits that he took Johannes Michelson's class, and that's where he learned to do all the jigs and the jam chucks and so forth and so on. So I'm going to give Johannes credit in, I think he's the one that brought it into today's light with today's equipment and with today's tools and so forth and so on. And then after he started doing them on a regular basis, and he's done well over 4,000 hats already. He's done 2,000 gallery ready hats. And he said somewhere in the areas between 2,000 and 3,000 hats in demos, because he's done demos all over the world doing hats. Now Chris Ramsey has also, he's expanded to, he's been overseas doing demos, wood hat demos. And he's very, very good at it. I tell you what, I took his class, and me and Paul Stubbs took his class, and we're going again in January, the weekend of January 21st, I think it is. We're going to take it 3 days this time. Because even though I do them and I know how to do them, by taking his class, I learned different ways of doing it. And I actually think, in my opinion, Chris's way is easier than Johannes's way. Johannes is very, very good. I think he's a little bit faster than Chris. Chris, it takes him about an hour and a half to do a full-size hat. Johannes can do one in about 45 minutes. Believe it or not. He did a demo for the North Coast Woodturners, where I am now president. I was vice president for 5 years. But we even had I had a chainsaw and everything there for him, and a block of wood. And he went outside, and as part of his demo, we prepared a hat blank outside, and then took that half blank inside and put it on the lathe. And from the chainsaw, from pulling the rope the first time to a finished hat on the lathe was an hour.
Oh my God.
So he is extremely fast. Chris Ramsey's fast too, but not quite that fast. But I think Chris Ramsey, again, strictly my opinion, I think Chris takes more time he wants his to be a perfect cut, opposed to doing any sanding at all. Of course, Johannes does very good cuts too. And their grinds are completely different. The Johannes Michelson grind, believe it or not, the Johannes Michelson grind is the same way that Chris Ramsey does it now. Chris Ramsey has his own grind. It's all done by hand. No jig can do the way he grinds his tool. And I showed both at the demo last Tuesday, and you could clearly see the difference. Johannes, he came up with a jig similar to the Wolverine jig to put his grind on the tools. And of course, he sells his jigs and he makes good money selling them. I think that altogether, it's about $250 for the jigs and the platforms and the holder and everything to put his grind on the tool. And I do still use his grind in some areas, but Chris Ramsey's grind to me is just, it's faster to put on because I don't have to use a jig. A little learning curve to learn to put that grind on a tool. But, and actually I just modified mine a little bit this morning, the way I did it. And it turned out to be a lot easier for me to do this than the original grind that Chris had taught me. But his place, well, I'll tell you what, he gives classes and he does more than hats. He does a lot of burl, natural edge bowls, huge, gigantic burl bowls. They're beautiful. He gets $2,000 to $3,000 a piece for his bowls. He gives classes on that. He gives classes on his a lot of his bowls are three-legged carvings on the bottom. He gives classes on those. But gentlemen, if you ever want to take a class from somebody and you really want to learn how to turn, Chris Ramsey is something to look at. His studio is just the most beautiful place you'd ever want to be. The landscape outside, I mean, you are in the green rolling hills of Kentucky. And
You
his
got a
place,
website, Ron?
you just Google Chris Ramsey, CHRISRAMSEY. I don't, you know what? I could get it for you. I have another laptop right next to me here.
No big deal. I can get it.
Yeah. All right. Well,
Yeah.
but I'll tell you, you stay right at the studio, right where his shop is. It's a beautiful building. There's 3 bedrooms there. You have your own bedroom. Every bedroom has a TV, marble bathroom, shower, living room quarters to watch a 60-some inch screen TV, dining room, his kitchen, and he's got an island there that's open. It's all open air. Or I shouldn't say open air. What do you call that when everything's kind of just in one room?
Open concept.
Open format, open concept.
Yeah, something like that. But it's his eating area is everything is burls. Everything. His cabinet doors are all burls that he made. Made all the cabinets. His island where you sit to eat your breakfast is all burls. Burl pillars that are 12, 14 inches in diameter. A mantle underneath this fireplace where the 60-some inch TV is a burl mantle. I mean, it's just, in fact, he just got he's been building a, uh, one of those bandsaws that you use for slabbing wood, mill. His will do,
Woodmiser.
yeah, his will do 62 inches wide. And he bought this burl log that was probably 14, 15 feet long, probably 4 feet in diameter. The whole thing was burls, and he slabbed them all. He's got burl slabs that are 2 to 3 feet wide and 12, 13 feet long.
Crazy.
And I mean, it's just, and it's all on this one piece of property, and it's in the hills. I got up early one morning and I went out and I took some pictures. I mean, you couldn't see a house anywhere. And I mean, there are houses that aren't too far away, but I mean, we got up in the morning, had our breakfast, went down to the mill, cut up our blanks for the hats. He threw them on one of those little cart things, those little runabout things that you run around in the mud in. Threw them on the back of that, took them up to the shop, took them inside, put them on the lathe, and away we went. Spent the whole day turning. I mean, it was just, and it's just honest to God, you could eat off the floor in the shop.
Cool.
One-way lathes. And then when you're all done, I parked my truck when I got there on Thursday night. Our class was Friday and Saturday, and we left on Sunday morning. This time our class is going to be Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and we'll leave on Sunday. Parked my truck there Thursday night, and never once did I move it. 3 squares a day,
Cool.
breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And amazingly, he charged us $250 a day. But if you go to a hotel and eat out 3 meals in a day, that's going to cost you $150. So the class cost me $100, all materials, tools, supplies, and everything included. Where the hell are you going to get? And I learned more in those 2 days than I did I've been doing hats now for 5 years. Took me 2 years to learn and 3 years successfully. And not all are successful, as Ed will vouch Tuesday night. But there's my makeup. I did make it up. That's going to your club.
So Ed, what are you working on there?
Oh, this is, I'm working on that menorah that we were talking about last time.
Oh, how's that going?
It's good. It's just about, just about done. The base is done. I put these legs on it, and I mean, I measured 75 times, and now I'm gonna throw it on the sander to level them off.
There you go.
The star is there, and it's the top, the base and the outside of the round piece are all walnut, black walnut, and the main body is white limba. And the star is white limba, but because of the way I segmented it, it's end grain. So I oiled it just to see what it looked like, and it doesn't pop. So I ordered some brass powder, so I can highlight the star. And then I've got the brass
Inserts for the candles.
the candle holders that'll sit on here. So I think it's
Eight candles, Ed.
Well, 8 candles plus what's
The
called
center.
the shamus, right? The
Right.
The helper candle will sit on top of the circle. So I was telling
Where does-
Ron,
Where does one get white limba from?
we're Africa.
Did you go or you ordered it?
No, there's a place up in Rochester, New York called Pittsford Lumber. And he caters to cabinet makers and architectural. But you can go up there and, he's got a store full of pieces, you can order and have them cut special. But I go up there just to see my wife goes to the bead store across the parking lot. And I go dig through his pieces.
What's
He
the
had
name
some
of the
white
store?
limba. He had white limba and black limba. And I tried it. They typically use it for guitars. And I've turned. Hold on, let me run out and get the bowl. It's sitting right outside the door here.
Where do the rest of you guys get your wood from? You order it or you steal it or what?
I usually order mine online, or I go up to Woodcraft store up near Cleveland.
So this is a white limba bowl here.
So I assume that must be pretty hard, yes?
Yeah, it cuts. It's hard. It cuts nicely. It sands beautifully. This is pretty dry, because he's catering to furniture makers and guitar makers. There's actually a guitar store right next to him, so it's a little dusty. But I've done a few pieces. I've done this piece, which I really like. Now the menorah, a couple of smaller bowls. I like working with it. Next time I'm up there, I'll get some more. The black limba is way more expensive because he sells more of it for guitars, and it looks the same except it has more dark grain in it. I have a feeling you can put them side by side. They'll come out from the same tree, but the figure in it determines if he calls it white or black. I may be wrong, but
What's the name of the
grabbed
store, Ed?
Pittsford Lumber in Pittsford, New York, actually. Right now, it's by appointment. You tell him what you want and when you're going to be there, and he'll bring it out to the car. Can't go wandering around. We haven't been up there much because, we haven't. 8 months we've been locked up. So, but I like it. I've gotten some interesting stuff from him.
Naeem, where do you get your wood from?
Who?
Naeem,
Oh, by the side of the road. Sometimes I go to Woodworks, and that's all dried wood there. But most of it, green wood, I just ask somebody who cuts wood to drop me some big pieces. And then I got about seven big pieces of maple, and so I decided to cut it and run them through the bandsaw, about 80 pieces of them, and I decided that I would spalt them, and so I did something that everybody said don't, and I wrapped them in saran wrap and put them for a season. And when I took them off, when I took the saran wrap off, it was all gooey, smelly, and all that. But the pattern was absolutely beautiful. I still have more than half the pieces yet. So what I did was I stopped the spalting process by dipping them in mildew solution and then planing them with a power planer, and now they're dried just beautifully.
what are you making with them, Naeem?
Oh, generally hollow forms and bowls, platters.
So hardwood turns much easier than softer woods?
It depends.
There's a pleasure with very hard wood, like for example, Osage orange and oak. They machine very nicely, industrial wood as I call them, and the others kind of like you can change them as you turn. You can change your direction. But with those sage orange, I just have to stay on the cut that I've started, and I can't vary it.
Do you guys do any kind of laminations where you got 2 pieces or 3 pieces of wood you put together to get the size you need to turn?
Sure,
Oh,
all the time.
I have a big lumber yard just down the road from where I live, and they buy all these hardwoods, hickories and walnuts and whatever, and they have a big kiln. And they put the lumber in the kiln to dry it, but what happens is that some of the pieces are too long to fit in the kiln, so they cut them off, and I get these pieces that are like 2 to 2.5 feet long, 2 inches wide. And I don't have to pay for them at all. They're just scrap that they throw away. And I have hickory and black walnut, and I think I have some cherry, but I didn't really know what to do with it. But I have laminated wood when I build like not cabinets, but other pieces. So you don't have a problem turning that kind of stuff.
You can do that, and you can do segmented turning. You have a bandsaw, you have a table saw, a bandsaw.
I have both, yeah.
You make a wedgie sled, and then segmenting becomes really easy. Have you seen the wedgie sled at all?
I have not.
don't believe
that.
it's very easy, because it's not. It's a lot of work to do the segmented stuff.
Hey guys, while Ed's doing that, I got a good source for black limber and white limber. It's called gotwood.com, GOTWOOD.com.
Yeah, you can get a lot of stuff there. All right, so
Yeah,
so the
they're out of
wedgie,
South Carolina.
yeah, the wedgie sled. So the problem with segmented turning that people have is the angles have to be exactly right, or you end up with gaps, right? So a lot of guys will, set their table saw, cut their pieces, glue together 2 half rings, sand the 2 half rings flat so they meet up, and you can not really see the difference in the, where you sanded, right? But if you Google or go to YouTube and look up wedgie sled, right? So instead of using 1 fence, this uses 2 fences. Let me grab a piece of wood here. So if you're using 1 miter fence, right? You make your cut, and then flip your board, make another cut, flip it back and forth, right? And if your angle is perfect, you end up with pieces to make a ring. The wedgie sled, you use two fences, right? I don't have all my cameras set up right now, so otherwise I can show you a better angle. So the theory is that it doesn't really matter what angle you are to your blade. It matters what angle your total angle is on both cuts. So what this does, you make this sled, and then you buy these wedgies for different angles because they have to be perfect. I mean, you have a 3D printer, you could do it. You can make your own. But this one's for 24 segments. It's marked, right? I put this in here, and I set my 2 fences using this. Doesn't really matter if I'm off kilter because my total is here. And now I make my cuts here and my next cut here. I don't flip the board. I just cut the 2 different fences.
So you're just cutting the ends.
You're just cutting, whoops. Yeah, you're always just cutting the ends. So this is to make the wedges to make the ring.
Right.
So, I cut once here and that cuts one side, then cut here is the next cut, and you go back and forth and you cut your 24 pieces. And I'll be damned if those things don't fit every time. And instead, I don't need clamps to hold them together. I put a rubber band around them, put some glue on them, put a rubber band around them, I'm good to go.
And you can use different color woods for that then too, right? 12,
Right.
12 of one color, 12 of another color.
Right, and then you can get really fancy. Hold on. So let me get to. All right, let me share my screen here. This piece was done on the wedgie sled by going back and forth and just tilting the blade. I didn't measure anything, right? But so you create a wedge and then some triangles in here.
So that becomes one piece of, let's say, thirds. That's a third of the other two.
Yeah, there's two segmented rings here. So there's.
You ever do this, Tom?
So this is the red, the Paduke here, or yeah, the Paduke is a wedge, but the sides are angled. And then in between each piece is just a triangle. But you can do much simpler pieces somewhere. I thought I had some. Yeah, I don't have anything on here. Even this, the two Purple Heart bands on here are segmented. I think this is 36 pieces, 48 pieces around the outside, and I think 16 or 24 pieces around the inside. And I cut them on the wedgie sled, and it fit 100%, no sanding.
Cool.
First time.
Cool. Tom, you ever do any of those, Tom?
No, I haven't. But I've been wanting to experiment with something like Ed did there with a ring, a different colored ring around, say, the edge of a top edge of a bowl, or on a hollow form around the mouth of the opening. I have some ideas, but I haven't tried that. But I have joined same pieces of wood, to make a bigger piece, so I could turn them like for a platter or something like that. But
Yeah.
I've done that, but not with different colors yet.
Yeah, I mean, this is Paduke and oak. I think this was the test piece for this sled, actually.
Pretty cool. I may have to take 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 years to get that fancy.
You'd be surprised using this sled. Like I said, watch the videos, because there's amazing things you can do by changing the angles. But it makes segmenting way easier. Cutting it.
I've tried that, making cutting boards by, doing 2 pieces of walnut and then something else and slamming all the things together to make checkers and all that. And that's not that hard, but doing this in the round, to me, would be kind of difficult.
It's not bad. Like I said, I used to struggle with it, and then I built this sled and bought the wedges, and now I can knock them out really easy. We did a demo for the club on the one guy did basic segmenting, and then I think it was our second remote demo. So he did it from his house, just some basic how to build the sled and do some basic rings, and then I took it and did the angles for the.
Does that enhance your price somewhat, Ed, when you sell them when they're fancy like that?
Hey, anytime anybody goes ooh ah, my price goes up.
By I hate them, Ed. I absolutely hate them. Good stuff.
No, was it Dave Sears? Is it Pennsylvania? His quality of his work is his finishes are just absolutely perfect. Brad Sears. We had him here in Cleveland demoing, and his stuff's very expensive. But he told me one time, he said, he said, when I first started out, he said, my prices were lower. And he said, I wasn't selling much. He says, I raised the price, and he said, now I can't make it fast enough.
Right.
But he told me something one time. He said, two things you don't want to do. You don't want to make your prices so low that you don't think anything of your own product. And he said, secondly, don't negotiate your prices, because if you do, the word gets out that you will. And he said, it's going to backfire on you. And I'm telling you, when this guy makes something, he makes like shaving brushes, and he uses the good bristle, the hair, whatever kind he uses. And the handle, it's so clean and such a nice finish, you're never going to use it. And for that little shaving brush, you'll get $275, $300, $325, and he gets it.
Yeah.
It's like Chris Ramsey with his hats, $750 a piece.
Yeah. See,
What was funny was when he made the one for Bush, he has pictures in his office or his studio of him being in the Oval Office measuring Bush's head with the Secret Service standing all around and everything. Of course, that was a complimentary hat. And when Bush left office, he contacted Chris Ramsey and bought something like a dozen cowboy hats at full price for his friends in Texas. Of course,
Sure.
Bush is a millionaire and a billionaire. He can afford it, but he said that one complimentary hat, he said, made me over $7,000.
Yeah.
People
People think you're much smarter when you charge more for some reason. I don't know why.
Well, you value. I mean, it's strange because when I lived downstate New York, mid Hudson Valley, I'd go to craft fairs and I'd pick up a bowl. It'd be, $200, $300, $400. And people wouldn't blink. The city people. You come up here, you take the same bowl, and they want it for $35. Down there, I take a Gatsby pen, pretty normal, $45, $50. Up here, it's $18. It's hardly worth doing, but that's the market here.
Yeah, when I used to do weddings, I started out charging $500, and I would get $500 people.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't get a lot of resales because that's where you made all your money. So
Right.
I jacked it up to $2,500, and now you're getting $2,500 people. I think the biggest wedding I ever did, I charged $18,000 for.
Mhm.
And I mean, they bought more shit afterwards, and it was almost as much as the wedding. So it's perception.
Yeah, it's not only the craft fair. I remember I worked for a lighting fixture manufacturer, second lighting fixture manufacturer ever I worked for, and they had been trying to get into this big garden store in the Midwest. I forget the name of it. It's 30 years ago, for years. And I told them I was going to go in. They're giving me all these discounts I could give them, and they're trying to sell. And I went in there and I told them, this is what it is. There's no discount. Glad to have you if you want it. And when I was sitting in my boss's office, getting fired for not negotiating with this company, when the truckload order came in, and he's like, what did you do? We've been trying to get in there for 5 or 6 years and you wouldn't even negotiate. What did you do? And I said, I told them our product is valuable. And you told them it was crap. You're going to give it to them for 20 cents on the dollar. you know, and people, if you don't think your product's worth it, neither will the people who are looking at it.
Then
Plus, you got to put into it the fact of all the time you spent learning how to do what you do.
Yeah.
And if you put a monetary number on that all by itself,
Hmm.
it costs a pile of money. So yeah, you gotta sell it for what it's worth.
I had a woman she just dropped it off this morning. She wants a plaque made for it's a gift for somebody. Part of it has to be laser engraved. So I called the guy who does my laser engraving. And I asked him, I said, what are you going to charge me to laser engrave this on this piece of wood? It's a piece of cherry, 5.5 by 17 inches. And so he said, I figure it's going to take the machine about 65 minutes to laser engrave this. And I charge $1 a minute. I said, okay, you're at $65. So I called the woman back. And it turns out she lives one street away from me. Well, we didn't know that at the time. I said, well, ma'am, I said, I'm going to be honest with you. I said, it's not going to be anything less than $100. I said, you could probably find somebody that's got a CNC router. And I said, they could do it probably cheaper. I said, and, I expected her to say, okay, well, thanks for your time. So she said, well, can I bring you over a sample of what I want? She came over this morning, dropped it off. And I looked at her and I said, I'm going to be honest with you. I said, 65% of that price is the laser engraving. I said, that's just what it's going to cost me.
Hmm.
And she looked around my shop. She said, and she got my card from an art store where I have my stuff displayed in Ashtabula Harbor. And she came in and she looked around my shop and she said, now I know why your stuff's so expensive. I said, yeah, I said, we were going over this just the other day, me and a friend. I said, I probably got $200,000 of equipment in this room.
Yeah.
So, and I told her, I said, listen, I said, I'm going to be honest with you. I said, I'm just going to cut the board. It's a very simple cut, what I have to do. I got to make the edges jagged. It's a plaque. It's going to hang in a cabin. I said, and I got to put a finish on it. I says, outside of that, I said, the laser engraver's doing all the work. I mean, pretty much. He's going to put it in his machine and sit back for an hour and let it. I said, so I'm not making a ton of money on this. And I says, and at this point, I don't even care. Because I can literally cut that board probably in 10 minutes, 15 at the most. And it's a piece of leftover cherry that I had from another job, which is none of their business. I still had to pay for that wood.
Hmm.
And, but I mean, a lot of it has to do with the area where you live. I live in Ashtabula County, and Ashtabula County is a blighted community. I mean, in fact, my wife and I had to cut through the other day to go down to the art store where my stuff's at. I went to the Home Depot and got a freezer for my sister that wasn't available in Cleveland. They had them here, so I grabbed one, threw it in my truck, and I stopped at the art store and I cut through and I looked around. And I mean, I only moved to here about 5-6 years ago. And I looked around and I said, oh my God, I didn't even know this area existed. Every storefront, every building was boarded up. I mean, it's just, there's nothing here anymore. So, I used to go to the city of Geneva has every year, they didn't this year, but every year they have what they call the Grape Jamboree. All the intersection are 2 state highways that intersect is Geneva's downtown square. And it's closed off for this festival, the Grape Jamboree. And I used to go to that. When I used to make pens and bottle stoppers, I'd sell them left and right. But now that I make things that are a little bit nicer, pricier, I haven't sold anything in 2 years. So needless to say, for the last 2 years, I didn't even go. And I won't. It's just, if they can't get it for under $20, like, it's not going to happen. Just like you said, Ron, it's, you're in
We did
a, you're in an area, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, we do a crash fair just the last 3 years, 2 years, whatever. My wife's a librarian, and the library has a holiday crafts fair. So we go, and I know I'm not going to sell a lot of stuff. My wife made some beaded bracelets, and she was asking $35 for them, and I thought it was really low for the amount of work she went into. But the woman across the aisle from us is selling earrings, 2 pair for $5. How do you compete? And it's not worth doing it. So you just have to be in the right place.
Yeah, craft fairs are kind of tough because you're right. You got all those people that are, cutting your throat. So if you have a decent product and you got a decent price on it, and the guy across is selling junk and people will buy the junk because it's less.
Yep. But you can also buy a mailing list of people who have X number of dollars of income. And then, Ed, like you have a website, you could do a mailing and show off all your work on your website, see what happens.
Somebody went on our club's website because he had a guy he was buying large salad bowls from, and the guy isn't around anymore. So he figured he'd look up the local wood turners. Of course, my name's on there because I'm head of the wood turners special interest group. He gave me a call and he asked, does anybody do it? And I said, look, I don't usually turn big, but if you need something, let me know. So he said, I'll take it. That's his go-to wedding gift. He likes to stock up on like 14 and 15-inch salad bowls and keep them. So next time he's invited to a wedding, he just pulls one out. I've only made one for him so far because I just haven't been turning that much. And, I called him up. I said, I texted him. I said, here's the picture. I made it. If you're interested, let me know. I gave him a price. And I kind of went between the Syracuse price and the downstate price, and said it was about 13.5 inches diameter, about 7 inches deep. Beautiful spalt, a beautiful figure in it, ambrosia maple. I told him $190. The guy didn't blink. He came, picked it up the next day. Okay.
I got 4 of them sitting at the art store right now, 14 inches. Tell them.
Yeah. And what do you sell those for, Ron?
Actually, those are selling for 119.
Yeah. Yeah. But I knew I could get this fit from him. He seemed to be that, downstate connoisseur. But if I took that to even a decent local craft fair here, you're talking about $80.
Yeah.
And to me, it's not worth it.
I don't almost got that much in it, no, Ed?
Yeah.
By
Well,
the time you buy your wood, put your time on it.
honestly, that tree came down in my backyard. It's been sitting in my garage for a while. I cored it so I can still make one more ball out of it.
But your clients don't know that. And the same with Ron saying that, the laser guy is making most of the money, but the client doesn't know. And I would never tell him that I took it to a laser guy because, if it was $65 and you had another 20 in it, I just mark it up twice and be done with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, but it's not, I don't enjoy turning really big. So if I'm going to do it, I got to get some money out of it.
Sure. Guess must be my old New York sales deal. When in doubt, jack it up. And if they don't like it, too bad.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. You have what they want and they have the money. So
that's it.
There's only one way you're getting the money, and that's giving them what they want. So if they want it bad enough, they'll pay for it.
Oh,
I was going to say, Trump and the boys didn't get to be a big shit by charging nothing.
I had a piece in the art store one day. It was what it was is it was an element root ball, and I cut all the roots off of it, and I made it was a very abstract ball, and I put a name on it. It was Life's Origin, because it was the beginning of life for this walnut tree.
Mm-hmm.
and I had a price of $479 on it, and it was on a turntable I lost a lot of knuckles making that thing. And at the art store, and a guy walked in the door, and the owner happened to be working that day, and he pointed to it and he said, "Wrap that up. I want it." And she said, "You didn't even look at the price." And the guy said, "I don't care what it costs. I want that."
There you go.
And it sold. She called me up. She said, "Ron, you're not going to believe it, but I just sold your root ball." I said, "You mean life's origin?"
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
but that was something else that somebody had told me one time. I don't remember who it was. I was the one responsible for scheduling all the pro turners at North Coast for the last 5 years. So I got to meet a lot of them. And I don't remember who it was that told me, but they said, "Give your pieces a name." He says, "That will help sales."
Yeah, I can
No,
never
a
come up
bowl
with a
or
name. I just
something
come
like
out of a
that.
bowl.
Yeah, a bowl, of course you couldn't name it. But I mean, like I had another piece that was, it was like a platter, and it was a bowl in the middle, and it had an edge around it, but half of it was missing. And I gave it a name. I think it was something like Missing Space.
Hmm.
And it sold for, I don't know, close to 300.
Yeah, it's good.
Have you guys ever been down to the Village in New York City,
Oh yeah.
where all
I
these
grew up.
fancy art places are?
Yeah.
I mean, what they sell shit for is just mind blowing, and it's crap. But they have some guy there who looks a little light in the loafers, and he's standing there selling it and whatever and so forth, and they all think it's the best damn thing ever.
Have you guys ever heard of Ben Poe?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he was an artist. He's since passed away. He was doing him and I can't think of the woman Turner also. She was with him there. They were doing a little mini demo. It was in front of an art store at a mall in Beechwood, Ohio. Now, Beechwood, well, it's not so much anymore, but back then you had to be a millionaire to live in Beechwood. You didn't even go to the Beechwood Mall unless you were, but now it's completely changed. It's almost even ghetto. But anyways, my wife and I went to this mall. It was a weeknight, and I met Ben Poe. I'm probably not pronouncing his name right. But he did a little demo, and they were doing embellishments and coloring and stuff like that. Well, when it was over, and it was just a short little demo, you sat in a chair in the mall actually, and I went in that store and started looking around, and the reason the owner had been there, or is it Ben Paul, I guess it was. The reason he had him there was because he just started selling wood art within his art store. And I walked around and I looked at some of this wood art, things that I can do, things that I've done. There wasn't anything in that store that was less than $3,000. Nothing.
Yep.
And when Chris Ramsey told me those, if you go to Chris Ramsey's site, you'll see one of the featured pieces, pictures on his website is that burl bowl, 3-legged burl bowl. He says he sells those for $7,000-8,000. It's just unbelievable.
I have a friend of mine that makes custom-made guitars to your specifications, your kind of wood, your whatever.
Mhm.
Minimum price $6,000.
Yep.
And he has guys from Arabia and Europe and whatever and so forth. Because the word gets out, it's all word of mouth, and he doesn't have any problem selling 5 or 6 or 7 a year.
Oh, I can believe it.
Yeah, so I hate to be a party pooper, but I got to scoot, guys. My wife's
Yeah, me
yelling at
too.
me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I gotta get going.
Me too. So, all right, listen, guys, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send out an email. I'll send you the link for the YouTube video on the demo I did for Ed's Club last week. And I'm going to, we're gonna do the meeting starting at 7 o'clock, 2 weeks from today. And see how that goes. See if we get a bigger
Sounds
crowd.
good.
Okay,
Okay.
cool.
Take it easy,
Thank you.
guys. Nice seeing you.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
All right.
It's long,
Hey,
everybody.
Ed, I got a question for you.
Yeah,
You said about brass powder,
yeah.
about doing embellishments. Where do you get your brass powder at?
I ordered some from Amazon. I've got some aluminum powder here that a guy gave me, that I just did one not too long ago. In this case, I just need a small amount I got from Amazon. I ordered it, but you can go, now it's a little harder because they have all these colored keys, but you used to be able to go to the hardware store and get the shavings from the key machine.
Okay,
But now they have all these colored keys, and they're plated, and so it's kind of it's corrupt, so you can't really use that anymore. But I think I ordered like 2 or 3 ounces, which will go a long way, from Amazon for like $12.
Craft Supplies has it.
okay.
Yeah, Craft Supply has it. Easy Inlay has it. But there's a lot of places. You can get anything on Amazon.
Yeah, that's true. All right.
Okay, appreciate it. Thanks.
2 weeks, guys, 7 o'clock.
All right. Good evening.
All right.
All right.
Good night.
So long.